everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, thank you to all for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone shares and sends my way. From the heart, thank you. Also, thank you to everyone that been supporting the recent book that I put out and circling back around and leaving a positive message. From the heart, it means a lot. I really hope it's to your liking. I included extra things as personal pictures of myself, as well as transcripts from the doctors on everything that's happening, you know, so there's a lot of clearing, or that the message, even on the book, is clear and honest, right? But I appreciate everyone. Thank you. Well, everyone, today I want to speak about a camarada with a lot of jugo. I'm talking about a lot of jugo, you know, and that's Boxer from Easy Riders, East Side Easy Riders to be exact. And the first time I met the homie, he was up in Pelican Bay, 2006. At the time, he was doing his movidas with Night Out from Artesian, Indio from Sereno, and Caballo from 18th Street, you know. And this is treasuring, for what he could bring to the table. A lot of narratives are painted in many ways, and I'm not one to paint them without foundation being there, that I seen and do know there is camaradas that have a lot more value to the organization, the M in this case, than fools that were made. There was a lot of fools made that just had the title, but at the end of the day, they didn't do nothing for the organization besides swinging off skirts of other members with more power. They only did things when they were ordered to do them by another member, you know, and the things he had on his belt, they were down like a straight coward. They were just dead weight, taking up space, right? To the point that eventually there was no politicking involved. It was a random decision that, deal with it, and its own homeboy, would end up putting tips on him, and way before he walked off, he was done because he told the cops he needed a cell move, and he needed to get out of there, right? That's snitching. That's try snitching. And then all of a sudden he circles around with like, after that, we're trying to kill each other. Come on, make that make sense. When you just selling with the individual and you requested to get moved out of there, you know. But anyways, there's a lot of individuals like that. There's also a lot of good Billies, that they treasure not just other members but homies, right? The way it's supposed to be done. This camarada, like I stated, he had a lot of family in Juarez and in Tamaulipas. So it was a back and forth. It was Jale, Jale one way, and then the other way Feria and toys that would benefit both sides, right? And anyways, this camarada around 2007, he would end up paroling. He paroled, he continued to stay relevant, bringing things to the table. And again, there were certain Pilis that were jealous and didn't agree with it, but they knew they went after him. They were going to have other members jump on their throats because this camarada had more influence than them, right? So all they could do was whine and cry, like, how is it possible a camarada knows more than me that I'm a main member? Well, maybe because you were dead weight. You were dope fiend swinging from skirt to skirt. And only the times you bucked up weren't even your calls. They were another police calls, and you were swinging on that, you know, not even bringing something as a whole. Anyways, within time, he would end up paroling from the bay. But again, he would continue doing his thing, right? For the three individuals I mentioned, Daryl and Indio and Caballo, to what extent only they knew. I only bumped into it in certain occasions. For example, like I knew the camarada. We had a trusting communications amongst each other, and he knew I had him in the sense, maybe Juarez at this moment had some bunk, ice, requesón, or soda, whatever it may be, right? So he would request, like, hey, you think you could assist me with whatever, right? Uh, Whatever he needed at the time. And I did the homie the favor, right? His feria was good. And anyways, as everyone, when you're on the streets pushing a narrative, right, for the pilis, is you eventually gonna get told on, excuse me, that you're doing too much. You start intimidating your own homeboys from your neighborhood. You start implementing certain rules and regulations that you gotta understand. There's a lot of individuals from neighborhoods that just don't agree with them. You go from doing your thing and just showing respects to getting clipped, having billies literally in your pocket, and there's also homies that have never been busted and don't feel like they should share their well, right? And you can't blame them from that, straight up. So the best thing is to start shooting out information to the Federicos, and the homie would eventually get caught and tried by the feds, and he took off to the feds. By this time, it's like 2009. That was the last time I heard of him personally in the state. In the state, it's very hard for a camarada to hold that weight over a Billy, in the sense of having more relevance to keep around than a dead weight dolphin, right? And than it is everywhere else. That's what difference the things, right? And the feds, they tend to write it out, and it's, of course, it should be like that. It's part of the rules and regulations. No politicking against another member. So, anyways, in the feds, it's different. There's a lot of Billies walking with you, and you start doing things for them. I guess a couple family members were busted that got sent from Mexico over to the feds. They weren't rats like you see all these pictures recently, of members with certain members from cartels, and they're all rats. They're all informants. Like Benjamin Arellano, he straight up told, you know, that's why if he would ever gets out, he's not welcome back in Tijuana. Ociel, he did not just tell he worked his organization to give the United States money, as he's telling. Every single one, I said it before, the only one that hold it 10 toes down was El Mochomo, Beltran. And you gotta give him that respect. But there is other individuals, on a smaller level that they hold it tough. They weren't gonna give up their gente. And anyways, the homie, he started doing his thing, as he was in the States for many pilis. As far as I was told, many pilis. You know, I could go on at least on five, which is Cricket, sure, Shy, excuse me, Pee Wee, and then Joe, and of course Sana. That's how I came across the camarada again, right through Sana. As you know, I was being given Clecha to report in Mexico and to my family, start building a trust there to build an avenue, a pipeline, right? And that's how I heard of him. Keep in mind, we were never on the same yard though in the feds, but his name constantly came up like a little drop of water. He would do something and his feria was good, always shooting up. For example, Usana, hey, I te van a couple thousand bucks. Here's a quarter, half a pound also for you. You know that the homie didn't use, and he did so with the other Billys. And at the same time, whatever was left, he will make his feria. The advantage he had, his family didn't request for feria out of him. There's a lot of candy, and then two states. It's like a couple pedazos here and there. It don't even dent whatever they're moving at all. They spill more on the floor, I guarantee you. And anyways, there was a situation that presented with the vato from Tunerville, Stalker. Like I said, he was a main member. I ran across him in Elo. We were Willis in the hole together. And he was real famous in the hole. Sincerely, he was cool. He came out, we went out to this cage yards together, all in one, and he played around, joked around, was curious, listened to you. But once he was out there where the homie was at, he wasn't happy that they were on the same yard and the homie boxer wasn't including him. in the movies because he was already taking care of five Billies, and it was all love. It wasn't like, hey, I'm gonna shoot you this quarter of a piece and I expect something back. No, I te van dos mil bolas and I te van at least 18 grams, do something with it, use it, whatever. And he felt covered, there was no need to include other Billies, but jealousy plays out. I said it many, many times, and after a while, what would it be like 6 months of this? Again, it was like a little drop, Every 10 days, Sana would get his issue from the homie, as I'm sure the others, and they had mad love for him. Sincerely, they were, at least when it came to Sana and Joe, there was conversations of having pushed for him, right, to get made, because he was treating Pilis in the state correctly too. He was an overall a good camarada, you know, relevant, and he had that weight, to oversee foods that were made that were dolphins. It's just sincere, Now keep in mind, tecatos are one thing, dolphins are another, straight winos, just keeping space, working being snakes, to the worst. Anyways, I guess Stalker got a boxer in a way because he wasn't happy just keep hearing it and him being on the yard. He felt some type of way. And it's not mandatory, right? Just because he's on the yard, you have to look out for him. When you're already touching five Billies and everybody knew Boxer was hands off and anything done to him was gonna be met with real bad consequences. You know, in reality, he was looked like one of them, and Stalker didn't feel the same though. And you guys know when there's a Billy present on the yard, they have a whole bunch of skilets around them, right? That might not even know what time it is. They're wet behind the ears, but since they're talking to a maid member, their eyes, shine like a sad puppy in impression. When in reality, they don't know that individual. He's a member, but he has never done nothing. And I'm talking about relevance. What did you bring to the table? Dope wise, toys, avenues, etc. As a whole. All that I got my neighborhood and everything that comes in is just mine and I'm greedy with it, period. It just goes to show, you were out for yourself. And just because you were under somebody's skirt that had power, you felt secure. And to not make this story short, because I got chemo tomorrow, Stalker would end up hitting the homie. Or he would have people do it, right? And when he did so, it just opened up a can of worms. Basically, all the way to where I was at, to the other Billies he was looking out for, all agreed Stalker had to bounce. Keep in mind, this is a made Mexican mafia member that made a call on a camarada, and that's going to take his career. That's exactly what happened. Them same individuals that were being under his skirts, kissing you guys know what, were the ones that moved on him and whacked him and removed him. And they straight up told him, man, this is a message from so and so, so and so, so and so, and so and so. You touch the wrong people, you're done. How can you just be on the yard for yourself to do dope? Just worry about the vitamina, jealous, envy of what another individual have to the point that you're trying to mess up something good for few peelies. And that would be the end of Stalker from Tunerville. The homie would end up keep pushing. After Stalker left, there was no member there for a minute, and he took control, just like he was a member. And I would end up paroling or getting out, right? 2018, September 13, and about a year later, it came down the pipeline. He had been blessed. He had been made, and it's exactly that. I want to end on this note. A lot of individuals, they go on that floor, right? This camarada did what he did correctly. The jealousy of one person just because he was M acted on him, but the homie patched up, held tough, and then it would eventually be the end of the career of the Mexican Mafia member. Yes, a camarada trumped the main member, and it happens a lot. You know, I heard whiners and crying saying, after so long, how is it possible this individual knows more than I do? Maybe because everybody knew you were an informant since '96. Everything you done, it was because you were on swing, trying to swing on somebody's skirt. You were a politicker. You were a dope fiend. You were disliked. Dispensa. If a camarada had that reach to put whatever in any member, and he always put himself in this position for the organization, state, feds, in Mexico. Also, just because you see a good camarada with who, from my experience, I could tell you, sometimes camaradas just don't want to get made. You know, from the 187 in Corcoran, that time I would have seen it through, honestly, you know. But the other three times after that, I wasn't with it. And even when a padrino would ask me, like, hey, Chino, I'm thinking of putting you up, I would ask him with all respect, nah, camarada, I ain't ready. I'm cool where I'm at. And it's when I started feeling exactly that. I wasn't a puddle helper. I wasn't going to leave what I've been representing, what I became in my neighborhood, to join something that feels superior to all the struggles I did as a sureño. And then the times in Mexico. In Mexico, hands down, there's so many camaradas that Trump made members. in power that you'd be surprised. There's only, well, there's a lot of camaradas as myself that go down there, put themselves in that position, and follow the guidelines, right? From a member to a main camarada. But anyways, I just thought I would share this story about the homie boxer and how overall he had a lot of hoo and his status within the organization definitely Trump Emma members that were just taking a cell, wanting to just receive. And the homie from Easy Riders, when it comes to Mexico, if you have direct family, if you have whatever, a straight connection, let me just say these. In Mexico overall, cartels hate us, but they hate Mexican mafia members even more because they're considered straight dope fiends, tecatos. Not all of them are like that. Daryl wasn't like that. Evil wasn't like that. Rudy, that's in Jalisco, wasn't like that. Sapo, well, other than that, like Mono or Chango, Richie, and all, they were dolphins. But it's basically why they say, just put some dope in front of them like a carrot, and they basically will follow you everywhere. And I know it ain't cool, right? But that's that spot they will put themselves in. But again, just don't go with the narrative that's saying, look, don't go with the narrative that just because someone was made, he was worth something. You know, like I said, I heard someone whining and crying because he was hurt because Camarada knows more intel than him, Wiggles. And of course, have you been working with the feds for so long, all you know is what the feds feed you. And they're only going to feed you crumbs. Hey, puerquito, here, I te va the leftovers. It's facts. You can call everyone friends, but it don't work like that. Anyways, that was the whole point of this video. Fake narratives are always painted on YouTube. And again, I'm not on here to put out lies nor tap myself on the back. I'm much chingon than this. My respects to everybody and what they're doing and their fan base. I want to keep doing what I'm doing, which is my personal walk and my message. You know, and so far, everybody has been real humble and respectful. I've gotten a lot of love, and I thank God for that. It's 100% facts. Honestly, honesty trumps BS, and do know the truth always flares out. Always. Again, give somebody enough rope for them to choke themselves, they will. In other words, stay humble, stay loyal to everyone, your neighborhood, friends, whatever it may be. You go in the system, handle your business, but at all times, Try to get out the ghetto, the gutter. Stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones. Don't put them through them struggles of doing time with you.